Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, it has been talked about so much about this race for mayor of New York City. And what I did was, I actually did two videos on Zohran Mandani, and what I suspected in both of the previous videos is that he would probably win the race as the mayor. And all the polls are saying he has like this enormous lead over the other two contenders. And you know, sometimes I wonder, because remember what they said with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. She had this tremendous lead and Donald Trump didn't have a chance. They were wrong. So what if all of these leads or what the polls are saying are wrong again? I thought, well, you know, I looked at his chart exclusively. What about the other two contenders? What did their chart say? So I thought, for astrology's sake, I could show you all three charts to make a better assessment. And this could help us understand astrology through making a prediction prior to the event and seeing what happens, to see how right or wrong we are based on our assessment. So let's put up, and here is something I want you to know. I have the birth time of Curtis, how do you say his name? Sliwa, and Andrew Cuomo. I don't have his birth time, but I do have the birth time of Curtis. And believe it or not, we got the birth time for Mamdani. So let me scoot over and we're going to look at the chart, see what I can see. And I want to tell you something else about this. I don't see like this torrential win for any of them. It wasn't like when I made my predictions for the last presidential election, I was absolutely certain that Donald Trump would win. It was so clear, crystal clear in his chart. It's not clear in any of these charts. So I don't know what that means. Like maybe one person gets in, they don't stay in, but something's not completely clicking here. But I'm going to make my assessment on the data that I have, and we'll see. But basically, I need to see the planets exactly hit by specific aspects for a win. I really don't see the exact aspects I look for a win. But I will say this right off the top of my head, Mamdani has the best chance, I think, of all of them. So putting up Mamdani's chart again, his ascendant is in Cancer, and I think that gives him the best chance, because I'll tell you why. Jupiter is in Cancer during the time of these elections. Now Jupiter's only going to be there from October 18th to December 5th, so during the time of the elections, which I believe are November 4th. It's the first Tuesday of November. And yes, Jupiter is 0 Cancer. So it's not exactly on his ascendant, which kind of bothers me. It's behind it, but it's still the same sign as the ascendant. But Jupiter being 0 degrees, I usually want to find a trine aspect. Jupiter is in full force and power with its trinal aspect. That means it's 5 or 9 signs away. But it is exactly squaring the sun, which is 4 signs away, Jupiter being 0 degrees, and his sun is at 0 degrees of Libra. That is a forceful aspect. It does connect. It absolutely does connect. That is the most powerful and the main thing that I think is going to give him a win. So what's interesting about his chart is he has the Venus-Jupiter conjunction, and he is in the Jupiter-Venus dasha for a year, all the way through November 5th of 2026. So it activates that Venus-Jupiter in Leo, but it is in the 8th house from the moon. And the 8th house deals with deep, dark stuff. It can deal with secrets. It can deal with scandals. It can even deal with corruption. So the fact that they're in the 8th house from the moon and transiting Ketu is about to cross over Jupiter and Venus, and this will probably take place within about 6 to 7 months. But it doesn't have to be exact. I find that the nodes, Rahu and Ketu, when they get close to a planet, even 5-6 degrees, they start activating it. And during the time of these elections, Ketu is getting close. It's around 22 degrees. So it's already giving its influence, but it's going to intensify all the more that they approach within the next 6 and 7 months. But let me just say this. What I can see from that, Ketu is loss. And in the 8th house, it can be danger. Yes, the 8th house is the house of endings and or death, but usually it just deals with some sort of endings, rebirth, transformation, change, right? So Ketu will change things. And I almost wonder if maybe because of something he does or implements, that he could be taken out of office for, something in the future. I don't believe he's going to stay in for the whole term. That's what I'm thinking looking at this. All right, so let's look at, next let's go to Andrew Cuomo. And Andrew Cuomo, we don't have a birth time, but we do know where his moon sits because his moon's in Taurus the entire day. So we can funnel everything through looking at his chart as though he has a Taurus ascendant. And Jupiter is the planet of abundance and wealth, and it gives. So Jupiter is in the 3rd house while it's transiting in Cancer from the moon. So it's 3rd from the moon. That's not the powerhouse that I need. I need Jupiter aspecting the 10th house or the 1st house to really give a strong indication of something positive happening. Now, the most positive thing I do see is his natal Jupiter at 1 degree of Libra, whereas transiting Jupiter in the sky is aspecting it because Cuomo's Jupiter sits right where Mamdani's sun sits. So they're both getting a positive aspect. And looking at his dashas, he is somewhere, we don't have his birth time, but he's somewhere in Mercury. So Mercury is the planet to be looking for in terms of the dashas. Well, his Mercury sits in the 8th house from the moon. So this isn't a good sign for him to be elected at all. And it's the only planet that goes 8th from the moon. So this is kind of like a very difficult thing, but that Mercury does not receive a positive aspect. As a matter of fact, Saturn is pretty much aspecting it by its square, not exactly right now. But I don't see any great benefits in this chart that produce a win. I just don't see it. There's where Jupiter is in the early degrees of Cancer. Yes, he's got planets in Scorpio, but they're not close enough for during the time of the elections to count. And Jupiter's not aspecting the dasha ruling planet Mercury. But Rahu-Ketu, when I plug those in, being around 22 degrees of Leo and Aquarius, I do get that Saturn and the Sun sit at the midpoint of Rahu and Ketu. That's not conducive to a win. Saturn is karma and difficulty, and at the midpoint of the nodal axes, it is right there. Saturn is at 23 degrees and his Sun's at 21 degrees, and Rahu-Ketu are 22, 23 degrees of Ketu in Leo and Rahu in Aquarius. So that's really the most difficult thing I see happening. And when I go to Mandami, then I'm looking at, no, the nodal axes aren't squaring anything, so that's a plus. He doesn't have the difficulty. Now let's go to Curtis Sliwa. And looking at him, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but it's worth a try. We'll call him Curtis from here on out. Looking at his chart, we have his ascendant, which it sits in Scorpio. And his ascendant sits around 15 degrees of Scorpio. Mars is there. No wonder he's a very strong individual in the military, in the force, where he, is like a policeman. That's something that he wants to protect the city. He wants security at all cost. So that would be, he does have he does have Mars at the very last degree of Scorpio, which can be totally extreme and out of control. His Mars in Scorpio is Gandanta. It's about as Gandanta as you get. 29 degrees, 59 minutes. Wow. So he is very, very, very passionate about everything that he does, but he can be sometimes a little bit out of control. I don't really know anything about him that much, except for that, yes, he's very strong about police and protection, and that's what this says. I like to really look at the charts, not what you read about the people. Half the time the media gives its slant on things. I just want to see the chart. So looking at this chart, transiting Jupiter being at 0 degrees of Cancer during this time doesn't aspect anything exactly. It just doesn't. I mean, Mars is way off, almost a full sign away. And the Sun is pretty close, but it's not enough to give him the win, Jupiter trine the Sun, because Jupiter is stationing at 0 degrees. So looking at, even from Chandra Lagna, look at this. He's got Moon conjunct Rahu. This guy can be something else. Out of emotional extremes. He's really into fighting, getting things done, but he is definitely out there, because anytime you have Moon conjunct Rahu, somebody is an emotional extremist in some way. Plus his Moon sits in Mula. He will do whatever he needs to do to disrupt things, and yeah, he's a fighter. But he is a very interesting, extreme individual looking at his chart. But wow. So Rahu and Ketu, let's plug them in. And looking at Rahu and Ketu, Ketu being in Leo, Rahu being in Aquarius, we do have Rahu that's going to eventually pull over his Mercury. And it's in the 4th house, 3rd from the moon. I don't see the 10th house being strong. The 10th house is the career. That's the one that we look for when someone will win the election, whatever it may be, president, mayor, governor, whatever. We need to find those powerful planets with the 10th house. And the sun rules his 10th. It is in Pisces. I mean, you know what I do think? Well, no, I don't. He will have a chance at power later, not now. Not now, but later he can. And then what I am seeing is his dasha sequence. He is in Jupiter Ketu till the end of May of 2026. And his Jupiter in Taurus does not get aspected. His Ketu is in his 8th house. That Jupiter Ketu is not the dasha of a win for becoming mayor. He's in a difficult cycle right now, according to the dashas. And the transits aren't giving him any strength either. Jupiter is in the 9th house from his ascendant, but in the 8th house from the moon. Now, the 9th house can deal with legalities. And maybe he's the one that's going to enforce some legalities and rules on Mamdani. So he's not going to give up. This guy will never back down. That's what I do see. He is a force to be reckoned with, and he feels really strong about anything that he does, and he's not going to give up. I feel like he might have a better chance later on, not now. So with where all the planets are going to be going in November, especially Mercury and Mars in Scorpio, and as they come together, I mean, Mamdani is going to really come out with a strong message, everything he's going to do is going to be really, really strong. It's going to be in his 5th house. But in November, Mercury turning retrograde with Mars, there's going to be huge contention and fighting. And it's just going to add more fuel to the fire of what's already going on with every city that, well, let's just say the cities where they're blue states. They are fighting ICE, they're fighting the government, they're fighting against Donald Trump, and this looks like this adds more fuel to all of those fires already going. And I get major confusion, more fighting. This is like the forces are against each other, and there will be so much contention and fighting, and this election will add fuel to the fire. So with that, I'll close. Remember, if you would like to sign up for my free newsletter, get all of my predictions delivered to your email, go to my website, galacticcenter.org, sign up for my free newsletter. Also become a member of my Patreon. You can find that on my website so that you can get exclusive videos that I can't do on YouTube, as well as my planner, my galactic planner. You can be guided by the stars according to your personal chart, not the general gist of what's going on in the world, you personally. Go to galacticplanner.com. And if you want to become my student, study Vedic Astrology with me, go to my university website, which is universityofvedicastrology.com. Thank you.